Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Housecall podcast, where everyday people talk to doctors and various experts to break down important health conversations into plain English. Our first series is Diets Suck, because they do. No, but really, 45 million Americans go on diets each year, only for 95% of diets to fail. So we're going to explore those trending diets and current fitness trends and revolutionary medications to see if we can't get to the root cause of weight gain and true metabolic hacks. So welcome my two co-hosts, Jarrell Chalmers and Dr. Eugene Kim. Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello.
So I've been really looking forward to this episode, our very first episode, because Jarrell and I have been getting to know each other over the past few months, working together. And it's really interesting. We're both on a health and fitness journey. We're both very different in terms of he lives on the East Coast and he's a single guy in his late 20s. I live in LA on the West Coast. I'm in my late 30s. I'm a mom. We have very different lifestyles. And so we're like in a little bit of different life stages as well. But as we're talking about our health and fitness journey, we've actually been trying similar types of diet approaches and similar types of exercise regimens. And I'm just interested to see, like, we are gravitating towards different things because they're working a little bit differently for us. So Jarrell, will you kick it off and just kind of share with us the journey that you've been sharing with me, how you started getting into health and fitness and some of the things that you've tried that you've liked?
Yeah, so I've always been sort of the skinny, slender guy my whole life. Like even in high school, I'd get made fun of for being too skinny, and like some people would look at me and be like, "Oh, you can eat so much and you never gain weight." So I kind of have always kept that up until recently, like when I hit like maybe 25, 26 years old. Anytime I had fast food or I had like a late night out where I would drink and then eat, it started to catch up to me. And I kind of had a wake up call last year. I went on a trip to Puerto Rico. And in Puerto Rico, like I kind of went crazy with fried foods. I don't know if you guys have been to Puerto Rico, but the food over there it's almost too good to resist. So like I got kind of food crazy. And when I got back from my trip, I had gained like almost 10 pounds and I was the heaviest I had ever been. So like I went from being the skinny kid to being what I would consider kind of skinny fat. Where like my stomach was kind of bloated and my face was getting heavier. And I kind of just was like, enough is enough. I need to kind of change and start working towards something a little bit different and not just let myself go. So what I started doing was I started going to the gym, I started drinking a ton of water, and I kind of restricted the amount of carbs I would have, where I was like having maybe less than 100, 120 grams of carbs a day, which kind of put me in this low energy phase where I just didn't have enough energy and I was kind of always in a grumpy mood. And so, yeah, I did that for a few months until I just started, realizing, hey, I can have some carbs as long as I have a balance. And so today I have my carbs. I have this balanced diet where I kind of count my macros. I enjoy the foods I want to enjoy when I want them, but I still am very conscious of what I eat. And yourself, Lisa, have you tried low carbs yourself?
Oh, I've been on a lifelong low carb diet attempt, I should say. Um, Low carb is the way I have to be. Otherwise, and with my genetics, I feel like I would completely balloon. I mean, my wish would be in this, what you call skinny fat. That's not my problem. My problem is if I would get totally, totally, totally overweight. I tried to do keto for the first time. That was really popular, 2021, I would say, at least in my circle of friends. So I tried that at the beginning of this year, 2022. It is so hard. It's not sustainable for my lifestyle. I have a family of 5. We eat out a lot because my husband and I are both working full time. So I tried to do even the mail delivery service for keto, but it's really hard to actually get into ketosis. And so now I'm on just a more sustainable like you. I don't count my macros like you do because that's also something that I don't find very easy to fit into my lifestyle, but I'm very conscious of eating processed carbs or simple carbs, I should say. And it's just maintaining my weight, but I haven't found the thing that works for me to really shed weight.
I was gonna ask both of you, like, does like having like a low carb diet, is there any scientific fact that it can have an effect on your mood? Because I don't know about you, Lisa, but anytime I go like super low on the carbs, I am very like irritable, agitated. Like I'm more likely to snap. I'm hangrier. most of the time. So is there like
Hangry.
a
I was
science?
gonna say, there's this Snickers commercial that I'm like, that like people get hangry. They turn into a different beast when they get low glucose. Yeah. Food is just one of those things that's interesting, that we all have an intimate relationship with food, obviously, because we all have to eat every single day. And it is complicated in the setting of diet because we get so much enjoyment from it, right? In terms of what it can do for your brain chemistry, the socialization aspect of it. And so I find that when you see people that take it as this regimen that is so strict and it's medically related, and they start getting into macros, they start going, I need only 120 grams of this, 15 grams of this, 15 grams of this. To me, then it becomes, you need to start with the why again. Then why are you doing this? Because so many people go through that process and they're miserable. They're hangry, they're miserable.
Yeah.
And then it's like half the time, then you can step back and be like, well, then why are you down?
I'd like to unpack that why a bit. I recently read a study that was done by the CDC that claimed that a higher percentage of women more than men, so like women, 56% of women versus 41% of men have tried to lose weight. So Lisa, like as a woman and as a mom, have you felt like pressure to like be on a diet? And if you have felt that pressure, how early did that pressure start?
100%. I feel like all at least American women have felt the pressure to fit more of the ideal, woman body type and ideal of what beauty is in America. And I live in LA, so I feel like the pressure is even greater. But I felt that all my life, actually since my earliest memories. One of the stories I think I told Jarrell before is from as early as I can remember, grade school, maybe 8 years old. I remember the first time I slept over at a friend's house, and we stepped on the scale because they just always had a scale in their bathroom. And we're the same age, similar height, but I weighed exactly 10 pounds more than her. And it dawned on me then, I was so young. It wasn't like someone was telling me I needed to weigh less or weigh the same as her, but I was comparing. Like, why do I weigh 10 pounds more than her? And we've been friends for so many years. It's like every time we stepped on the scale together, I was always 10 pounds heavier. And so I always had in my mind, I'm always heavier. I'm heavier. I'm heavier. I'm heavier. And it wasn't until I was in eighth grade, about 13, I did something about it. So always felt like that. And visually, I think I always looked heavier. And then at 13, one summer, I decided I was going to do something about it. So I ate Subway sandwiches every single day. It was walking distance from my house back then. And that's when they had the Subway Jared commercial blow up.
So I thought, the Jared Subway commercial.
It worked for me though.
That was like the number one advertising campaign.
And I still remember it because it meant something to my journey, which is I ate Subway sandwiches all the time. I had a roasted chicken breast sandwich on wheat, and I had them scoop out bread. And then every night this is how long ago it was, because I put my favorite band's cassette tape into our cassette player, and I'd work out. I'd like dance and work out to the entire album, to the entire cassette tape. And that's how I timed myself. I would just dance and go crazy in my room, and I'd be sweating at the end. And I did that every day, and I lost 3 pant sizes that summer. But when you're 13, that works. I could do that now, and I don't think that would work. So that's as long back as the pressure for me went. And then since then, I've never felt like I was the right size. I've always felt overweight. 20 years later, have a baby, gain 50 pounds in my pregnancy, forget it. I almost felt like, why even keep trying? But this year, 2022, was a year that I have probably tried harder and more hacks and tips and things I'd see online and hear from friends than ever in my life put together. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it now. And that's why this episode is so important for me. I have tried what I feel like is everything in the book, and it's still so hard for me to reach my goal. I've plateaued really early on. So that's me. And so I envy Jarrell, you. I feel like 10 years ago, if I was in my late 20s and just kind of watching my carb intake and, working out more for enjoyment, and I could reach my health goal like you have, like, that is amazing. I'm so envious of that. And I'm trying to find what works for me in my life stage and my sort of metabolic stage now. Is it true, Eugene, by the way, as you get older, we all have heard this, as you get older, your metabolism slows down. Why is that?
Absolutely, 100%. Your metabolism does slow down. You could get into the science, the cellular level of oxidative process, but it's, obviously, I think we all understand, just like your skin and, starts to get wrinkles, is that there is a certain degree of breakdown that occurs, and then your body needs less weight. And it kind of makes sense if you're going through puberty, then your body needs exceedingly more energy. So we've all had that story where you can just eat anything you want, right? Because you're growing, you need to eat more. You're a growing boy, there's a lot of truth behind that, right? And as we go through our 20s and 30s, your body's able to maintain that. But then as you get into later decades, and women is certainly more complicated, the thought process that a man and a woman are same in regards to their journey with food is, that's completely false, obviously. I think people understand that too. So yes, unfortunately, as we do get older, we do need less calories. And I think that that's a complicated issue because there are so many reasons behind that, because it all comes back to your relationship with food.
That leads me to another topic I wanted to ask Jarrell about, which is, have you tried intermittent fasting before? Like, I know you, like me, have tried different types of things. Have you tried intermittent fasting? Why or why not?
Yeah, so I mean, I've come across intermittent fasting on social media, which is what made me try it. I saw like a lot of fitness gurus, a lot of health people kind of trying, to articulate, oh, you need to do some intermittent fasting. Like for the first few hours of your day, try to not eat. And I tried that. So like what I would do is I'd wake up, I just maybe have like one protein bar. I wouldn't eat anything else. And I'd go to the gym on an empty stomach. And again, it's going back to the hangry grumpiness that I mentioned earlier. Like I was working out with zero energy in my tank, and I don't think it worked for me. Like I feel like I needed some sort of fuel. And now what I do is before going to the gym is I'll have a small breakfast. I'll have a fruit, which might be loaded with carbs, to kind of help fuel my workout, because honestly I was kind of running on protein bars and pre-workout before I would go to the gym, and it just honestly didn't work for me. And I think the biggest effect that it had on me wasn't even just like my fitness and how my body looked. I think it was more of like a mental thing. I think it was having an effect on my overall mental health. So I don't think it really works for me, but I do see a lot of fitness gurus who are like super ripped, super jacked, who do boast that, oh yeah, intermittent fasting works for me. But for me, it just doesn't really work for me.
Jarrell, I wanted to know, as we unpack what you just talked about,
Yeah.
was your goal, or is your goal, weight loss after you got back from Puerto Rico, or is it gaining more muscle? Like, because a lot of guys, it's both. Like they want to slim down, but they want to gain muscle. They want to replace that fat with muscle. What is it for you?
Yeah, so at the beginning of my journey, it was about weight loss. Like I was stepping on the scale once a day, tracking my weight daily, and just kind of watching the changes really closely. To be honest, I haven't stepped on a scale in maybe about close to 2 months. I just stopped using scales altogether. And now what I do is my goal is to just gain more muscle, because I want to, from the research that I've read, more muscle kind of helps you with mobility and it helps you recover from injuries later in life. So kind of just building my muscle mass as I age has been a priority for me. I'm not really trying to lose weight anymore. However, I mean, if I end up letting myself go, I'll go back to weight loss. But I think at the start of my journey, I think social media definitely had a big impact on my overall, like what I wanted to do. I was seeing scrolling through Instagram and seeing all these jacked people, all these Instagram models. I'm like, oh wow, look at me, I'm over here gaining weight in Puerto Rico. I need to kind of jump on it. So my journey first started with just being self-conscious about my weight gain, but now I'm more focused on just building muscle and making sure that my body is ready to age, because honestly that's kind of like my priority at the moment.
Wow. You're so young to prioritize like how you age, but I think that's amazing. I bet Eugene would say, as you should.
Wow. Your priority is longevity at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. That's fascinating. Bravo. Great for you. And so would you say that that's on your age cohort that is prevalent?
I think I'm 29 and I'm starting to see a lot more people, and I don't know if this is related to longevity, but I'm starting to see a lot more people cut back on drinking or even people like quitting drinking completely.
Right.
And I'm not sure if
Right.
that's connected, but I'm willing to bet people are quitting drinking because they
Yeah.
feel as if it has an effect on their aging and their weight gain.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it's starting to make a play in the 30-year-olds. I think
Yeah.
social media has made my generation really afraid of aging. You know, a lot of people my age are even starting to do Botox earlier than usual. I think anti-aging is super big in my generation at least, and I think it's because of social media. I don't think we saw this in my generation 20 years ago or 10 years ago. The 30-year-olds of the 1990s. I think social has just really changed how we all think, to be honest.
Well, that's fantastic. I love hearing that because one of my common things I will say to my patients is how you live your life in your 40s and 50s will directly impact how you are living in your 60s and 70s. And there is a direct relationship in regards to a decade later, how your body is going to be operating. And when you talk to senior citizens, especially, and I have this conversation literally every day in the hospital, is people are not so focused on necessarily, they are now, but the number when you get older in terms of how long you live, they'll say, it's not important necessarily to how long I live, but what's most important is how I'm living while I am here, right? There is this concept of quality versus quantity. And if this is your age and this is the quality of your life, that you want your quality of life to be high, and then you get to your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and just want it to just go boom, and then I die. Unfortunately, in America, what we're seeing in terms of the plague of diabetes, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, the way we live our lives, is that life ends up being like this. They're great in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s and 50s. It kind of goes down. They have a heart attack or a stroke. They start living with diabetes. And then their 70s and 80s, it dwindles down like this. There is this huge portion of the curve in terms of the quality of their life that they're missing. And that is what's affecting America today. And there are many factors in terms of the South American diet. So it's so amazing to hear you so focused on the inputs that are required. Because what I always talk about in terms of disease, for any disease process or any pathology that you have in your life, what is the number one risk factor? People, when it comes to heart disease or stroke, they're like, well, maybe it has high blood pressure. Is it diabetes? Is it, a sedentary lifestyle? The number one risk factor for any disease, including cancer, including Alzheimer's disease, is age. How long you have been on this planet. Literally, and if you think about it, yes, all of these other factors that I talk about make those things worse, but how long you are exposed to all of those risk factors is what's most important. And that thought process needs to start exactly where you're at your age, being able to understand the inputs of what is alcohol doing, being able to understand the inputs of quality of sleep, being able to understand the inputs of what you're putting in your mouth and how you're moving your body and how that will affect your life so that you can have a curve that goes, I'm having a great life, all the way up to 100, and then just suddenly in my sleep. And that's what we all want. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You talked about life expectancy, and in America, our life expectancy hovers at around 78. It just dropped, I believe, this past year, maybe due to the pandemic and things like that, but it's always hovering roughly around 78. But if you look at all the developed countries in the world, that actually ranks the US 26th. Yet we have the number one healthcare expenditure out of all of the countries. Number one, but our life expectancy is 26. Like, something is broken. There's exactly why we've kickstarted this podcast. And it's exactly what I love about the three of us here talking about this. Is Jarrell's in his 20s, I'm in my 30s, Dr. Kim, Eugene is in his 40s. And, it's every generation, though, should be talking about it and understanding it. I do feel like the silver lining of COVID is it's made healthcare and longevity and quality of life more mainstream conversation than it was prior to COVID, at least in my circle and in my feeds, if you will. So I think that's just such a really great point. It's moving our life expectancy up by educating ourselves about how we get there in the journey, and it's every day. It's not a moment in time. It's not the year of or the month of the effort. It is truly like just being able to live your life with the knowledge and making those right informed choices that just hadn't, I mean, I really do commend you, Jarrell, for starting this so conscientiously, so young. I do think that Dr. Kim, what he's saying is spot
Yeah.
on. Like, they're going to reap the benefits.
I mean, my reasoning behind, being so focused on longevity, like many years ago, I lost my grandmother to like she had a lot of heart conditions. She suffered from diabetes, and it wasn't just like a quick death for her. She had a very slow amputated on her leg, and she just spent her last like 2 years of life in a hospice. And just growing up and seeing that, and just I realized I didn't want that for myself, and I know that heart disease and diabetes can be genetic. So just for myself, when I came back from Puerto Rico, and my grandmother's from Puerto Rico, so it's kind of connected. But when I came back from Puerto Rico, I kind of saw my grandmother and myself, and that was kind of like my wake up call. I didn't want to get to that point because I know that those kinds of problems can be genetic. So, yeah.
And to me, that goes back to your why also, right? The why can be multiple different things for different people, right? Whether it's aesthetic or health, right? And honestly, I don't really care about how you get there or even because if either one of those and both of them are driving that, then they all come to the same end result in terms of you being a healthier version of yourself and being on some type of sustainable, enjoyable journey through health and having a healthy kind of relationship with food also. Yeah.
Okay, you said enjoyable. There's nothing about anything I've tried this year for me though that is enjoyable. Let me break down a few things that I've tried just to kind of find that hack. I truly want to believe in these hacks that I'm seeing on social media. One hack I read about and I've been trying, and I want to ask you about the science of it, is starting my morning with lukewarm water with lemon squeezed in it. And somehow I've been told that the citrus in that water gets my metabolism going in the morning. Is there any truth to that?
I would say that all of these hacks on social media that you see, I would say that there is a small sliver of truth to a lot of them. Like even my mom, she loves warm water and she puts lemon in it for taste. And I don't know if it's for the acidity, but there is some evidence to show that, and it makes sense that like for Korean food, for example, there's a soup in every meal, and there's a lot to be said about having warm foods in your body, right? They talk about saunas and its effect on the elasticity of your arteries, just in general, right? We all know that you feel better with a warm meal versus something that's cold, or you're better warm in a sauna versus being freezing. And there's a lot of truth to that. So in terms of these hacks, the problem is that I think that you kind of go back to starting with the why and your expectations. Is that I think that a lot of people, when we go down this more diet, they're thinking about something that's going to get there fast, right? That I need to lose weight in 20 pounds in 2 weeks or something unrealistic. And so when I go back to the three things that I look at, that to me, it's about having, when you go back to a journey, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? And we're here for a long time. And it's being able to have a sustainable, healthy relationship with food that's going to last you a long time. And so I don't mind hacks, in all honesty.
The person whose hack it was is supermodel Giselle Bundchen, right? Like she talked about that hack, and so I was like, if she does it, I'm certainly gonna try it. It worked for her. I haven't noticed any difference, so it doesn't work for me.
And why not? The only thing that I would caution is that we all are starting from a different place, right? And so this to me is also an important concept that I like to explain to all my patients, is that the same stimulus that you have, whether it's whatever hack it might be, right? Whether it's warm water or whatever, it's going to affect each person differently. And that's when we come back to the whole personalization of diet, the personalization of what it means to you. Because the obese person, in terms of their hormones, in terms of their chemistry, in terms of everything about them, on a cellular level and a hormonal level, is very different than the supermodel of Giselle, right? And the things that work for her, yes, they in a small way can work for you, but if your goal, and you start with the why, is dramatic weight loss, then I don't care how much water, how much citrus you put, you're not going to get there, right? You need another stimulus, right? And that's just unfortunately part of where you're at. Everybody has a certain metabolic set point where they start at, and it's very different for each person. And so, to me, when I talk about sustainable and when I talk about starting here with your why, it's having something that's dramatic. It can work, but it's usually not sustainable, and you'll have a yo-yoing. And so a more gradual approach, a more sustained approach that happens daily is, to me, something that's more healthy and something that you get to your end goals in a more sustainable fashion, which is very difficult.
Eugene, I have a question. You mentioned like everyone's body's different and we all have different genetic makeups. So like, how does someone figure out what diet they should be on? Like, if I know like I should be eating XYZ, like how do I get to that point of figuring out what foods I should eat?
Yeah, that's great. So it goes back to the journey that you just need to try and see what's best for you. This is not, the medicine world is obviously very aware of this. There have been many large scale studies that have tried to tackle this, whether it's there was like the South Beach diet or Mediterranean diet or keto, Atkins for a while, low carb. And they've all, large, double-blinded, very well-run studies trying to figure out which diet would be best for you in terms of your weight loss. And in terms of the end point of weight loss, if that's the goal, those studies have shown that there is no difference between any of them, in all honesty. I think that each diet, whatever you're using, has a specific benefit for a specific goal. And that's why I always talk about you need to start with the why, what you're doing this for, why you're doing this. If you're vegan, why are you doing that? Because yes, there are great benefits to it because it puts you in the mindset of not eating meats that are pumped up with hormones every single day, or milk that has these very inflammatory antigens that are making your body react every single day. There are reasons behind that can make you healthy. But that's why I always go back to starting with the why in terms of what is your goal. And I think that it's important for you to try each diet for yourself to see what will work for you. That's why I think social media is great in terms of people explaining different things, but you just need to try it yourself.
Quick question for you, Lisa. So I know there have been like a number of studies that prove like if you work out with a community or like a workout buddy, that your diet is more likely to succeed. Have you have sort of like an accountability thing going on where you have your diet with someone, or where you like kind of show your diet progress with a community?
I tried that for the first time this year, and it was one of those cliche New Year's resolutions. My sister and a good friend of mine, we said, all right, guys, this is going to be the year where we hold each other accountable. That's the difference, but we're going to all reach our health goals or our weight goals. So we started the year off strong. Everyone would send a picture of what they're eating throughout the day and send it to each other. And it was just the mindfulness of it that since I have to share this with someone, I'm going to think twice about what I'm eating, right? It was subtle and it was helpful. But that, to Eugene's point, is not sustainable as we get busy throughout our lives and we're eating out and we're rushing home and I'm eating a quick meal between meetings. I couldn't take that picture between every meal and then share it. And then even if you shared it, you want to be able to be a good partner in that and where you're responding to it. Hey, good job. Or, oh my gosh, what are you going to eat for dinner if you ate that burger? So just any kind of reaction. It started dwindling down really quickly, probably after the first month. Then like few pictures, those 3 pictures a day became 1 picture a day, and it became a picture every other day. So I feel like it was very helpful while we kept it up, but in the way in which we tried it was not realistic because no one was going to say, hey, where's your picture? I didn't see it come through this morning, And so I totally agree that the accountability helps. I personally haven't found a good accountability system yet, I guess. Although I will say the one person who's always going to hold me to this is my mother. She will tell me, this Asian thing perhaps, she will tell me the first time she sees me is I've gained weight or I've lost weight. It's just like after hello, hey, did you lose weight? Hello, oh, you ate a lot this past week, didn't you? Like this. She's going to always tell me the truth. And so I know when I see her, it's going to kick me back into strengthening my willpower, or, I'm feeling good. And maybe I'll get even a little too lax after I see her. How about you, Jarrell?
Yeah, so I don't have like a group or anything like that, but I post a lot of my fitness progress on social media, like on my Instagram. And I think, the more people that see my post and will message me saying, "Oh, you've been a source of motivation for me. I'm working out now because of all of your posts." Like seeing stuff like that, I feel like I can't let my followers down. I have to keep going, and it kind of has helped me not kind of jump off the wagon of my fitness journey.
That is fantastic. I think that's great. But there is a lot of evidence in regards to in the psychology circles of having shared goals. And because human beings by nature, we're tribal beings. And when groups of people have shared goals, they tend to get to those goals more than an individual person. I agree with you, at least the kind of the translation of that and how you do it is important. But all those studies I was talking about, how it showed that all of these different people went into these different cohorts of different type of diets, and there was really no significant difference in all of them. The one conclusion that they made in all the studies, and you see this consistently, is that when individuals were in a group, this is why Weight Watchers is still here today. If you don't know, Weight Watchers is this program that made way back in the 80s. Now, 40 years later, it's still here today, where people get into groups and they try to support each other toward a common goal. And to me, that's the idea of social media, right? It's just kind of, whether you consider it intrusive or less intrusive, it's kind of a generational thing. But it's the idea that when you are together and, accountability, sometimes I use the word accountability, and sometimes that can be very difficult to hear and say because sometimes there's this idea of punishment behind it, right? But to me, it's about having shared goals. And if you share that with people, that in terms of what you're going through and your struggles, then we all need support.
Yeah, well said. I think, and the thing that I heard loud and clear from you is, and what you're doing in terms of what you're putting in your mouth and how you're keeping yourself physically active. You don't know what's going to work best for you until you try it yourself and you just pay attention to your body and what's working and how it's changing. Because I know I've tried no less than a dozen different diets, hacks, and exercises, from protein powders to intermittent fasting to that lemon water I told you about, to HIIT exercises and keto meals. I've tried so many things. I'm still hopeful and waiting to figure out what it is that's going to work for me to help me reach my last goal. But this is not the end of our discussion. It is simply the beginning of our discussion. I know I'm going to be way more educated towards the end of this Diet Sucks series, as are all of our listeners and Jarrell. So thank you, Jarrell. Thank you, Eugene, for this wonderful episode and talk. I think it's, again, one thing we take away: there is no one size fits all. So don't be discouraged if one thing you try isn't working, because it's all about figuring out what works for you.
Thanks for tuning in to the House Call. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our weekly episodes. And if there's an important health topic you want to hear more about, let us know in the comments and we'll make the House Call. Till then, take care.